I want to share with you something. If I tell you that we black people are very much unique from any other race, would you believe me?
Now, here's what I found out in 1996. A group of geneticists wrote this book. An organization is called the American Association for the Advancement of Science. Different groups of people had different numbers of DNA series. Then they found further that not only are their DNA series different, but the number of DNAs in there are different in different groups. Whites have a different number of DNA, and blacks have a different number of DNA series. Apes have a different number of DNA series. Then they found this amazing thing, that the greater the number of DNA series, the smarter the person, the group is, the greater the probability of genius within that group. So they tested the orangutans, these 15 geneticists from around the world. These geneticists came from 9 different universities. Now here are the names of these 15 geneticists from around the world. University of Japan, University of China, Yale University is the headquarters of this organization. What it said is this. This is the mind-blowing part. It said that when they tested the orangutan, they found out he only had 3 DNA series. When they tested the gorilla, they found that the gorilla has 4 DNA series. He's a little smarter than the orangutan. They tested the chimpanzee, which is an ape, and found that he had 5 DNA series. They went all into the different races of the world. They went into Europe and tested the DNA series of the English, the French, the German, the Spanish, the Russians, and found they had 6 DNA series. Then they put all of this, what they found from around the world, on a map. And this map really is called the intelligence map of the world, because they tested 116 different human groups and found their DNA series numbers. All of them, all over the world, have 6. Then they came to Africa. But when they came to Africa, found out that the African people have 9 DNA series. We have 9 DNA series. The greatest possibility of genius in our group. When we broke it down and interviewed Dr. Kidd, the head, he's the chairman at Yale University. We broke it down into plain, everyday English so that the world would know that the African American is descended from those people who gave to the world the Great Pyramid, gave to the world science, gave to the world mathematics. A black man named Amos gave algebra to the world. How can a people become champions in everything they touch? Because they have 9 DNA series, while the rest of the world has only 6. It's in the World Book, in the encyclopedias. They don't want our children to know this. That's what this is saying.
What if I told you that black people are the superior race? Would you still believe me? You see, that apple, that tree which has ripe apple, is the one which gets children take stone and throw at it. Africa is that tree. And we've been having ripe fruits for the longest time, up to now. You see, scientists have come forward and they've made a series of research and development. You know, they have studied genomes, they have studied DNA. Genomes and DNA is what constitutes a human being. You see, a human being is made up of organs, you know. So we are called organisms. And organisms are made up of what is called tissues. So a group of tissues form an organ, you know. Tissues form organs form the organism. So we have the heart as an organ, we have the eyes as an organ, we have the lungs as an organ, we have the brain as an organ, so we have the skin as an organ. So many tissues make all these. So organ to tissues. Now what makes up these tissues? Tissues are made up of a group of cells. You see, cells are what makes the tissues. Tissues make organs. Organs makes the organism. So what makes up the cells? You know, what's inside the cell? Inside the cell, we have a series of DNA information, genetic information. The genome, we have the DNA, we have the chromosomes and all that. The chromosomes contains the DNA. So it has been found that if there is a higher concentration of a particular genome in a particular race, it meant that that race was highly intelligent and highly superior. So these people went ahead, did their research, and they discovered that the black race, the black pigment race, had a higher concentration of this genome, which indicated that they had a higher intelligence. Yes. So it is no coincidence that we have the pyramids in Africa, that we have education started here in Africa, that we had wise people come from Africa. Ethiopia is one of the oldest countries that has been also stated in the Bible. There's so much to value about black people. I'm telling you the truth. I want us to listen to what these professors have to say. I shall get back by the end of this video, where we shall also have a deeper critical analysis. Let's dive in.
This new study is going viral. It says most Europeans had dark skin until just 3,000 years ago. And many people, they refuse to believe this. But you can see reconstructions of early Europeans. They had dark skin and they had long hair as well. The study, it analyzed ancient DNA, and it says that lighter traits emerged in Europe about 14,000 years ago. However, they only appeared sporadically in individuals until relatively recent times, about 3,000 years ago. If you look at this map, you can see dark, intermediate to light-skinned people. During prehistoric times, most people were dark-skinned. By the Iron Age, around 1000 BC, you can see near Spain there's some lighter-skinned people finally, but there were still so many people with dark skin. What do you guys think of this study? 3,000 years ago? That's not that long of a time if you're thinking about the whole human history.
The average African American genome is very distinct from the African genomes from which they were taken. Now, you couple that with the fact that there is more genetic diversity within the African continent than in the rest of the world put together, which means that, on average, someone from Senegal is more different genetically to someone from Angola than either of those people are to anyone else on the rest of the planet. And that's just what the genetics says. So I know this is quite a brain scrambling concept.
No, I'm with you.
But this is one of the problems with the earlier conversation about how we categorize people. We say black people, right? Because Linnaeus said black people, Homo sapiens Afa or Africanus. But actually, it's a completely incoherent biological category because of the amount of genetic diversity that exists in people from who are in Africa or from the African diasporas. So how this relates to the transatlantic slave trade means that you've got two people taken from maybe neighboring tribes or counties or whatever the equivalent is, or countries, who are taken from their birthplace, put onto ships, mixed around, maybe live or die, they then traded around, forcibly mated potentially. We know from the genetics now that there is a lot of European DNA in the African American genome, and mostly it is from male Europeans into female African Americans. So, figure that out. Interestingly, the converse is also true. Many white Americans have up to 20% of African ancestry that we can measure in.
Well, if you make the assumption that the human race arose like around the equator and that skin color, dark skin color would be the phenotype, then are you assuming that as people moved outward, there was a mutation, and if you were in the north, it allowed that mutation to live, which is how we got white people?
Yes.
Would that follow?
Yeah. If Nina Jablonski, who spoke at another one of your things, explained this, and she played a role in studying the reason for dark skin, which is if you have lots of intense sunlight, it destroys folic acid And it turns out folic acid is really important for babies to develop properly, so it's not too good for a population for the babies to not develop properly. So that's why dark skin. Now, as you move north, there's another essential vitamin called vitamin D. There's an intermediate, biochemical intermediate, that needs to be then converted by the liver, but that intermediate's formed by UV light going through the skin. If you're near the equator and you have a dark skin, it still gets through enough to get your vitamin D. But now if you go north and it's cold and you wrap up and it's less sun because the sun's coming at an angle now, you will get rickets and have other problems supposedly. So that's thought to be the reason for selection for lighter skin.
For more than 40 years. So it's incredible now to have the DNA data that really shows us what this guy looked like. You know, the hair, the eyes, the face, that combination of blue eyes and dark skin, really very striking, something we wouldn't have imagined. And to also get from the DNA, you know, details of his biology, the fact that he couldn't digest milk as an adult. That's something that came really with the advent of farming. And 10,000 years ago, people in Britain didn't have that. And of course, it's very striking for a 10,000-year-old human. Our expectations a few years ago would have been that this individual would have had, you know, maybe dark hair, but fairly pale skin, possibly blue eyes. And what we've got is a quite unusual combination of this dark, slightly curly hair, really quite dark skin, and quite striking blue eyes.
1, 2, 3, bye-bye.
Do you know that Africans have the powerful DNA on Earth? In this world, we have three main types of human skin. We have the dark skin, we have the light skin, sometimes classified as mysteries, and we have the white skin. According to scientists and what they say, the gene of light-skinned people is the same as black people, which makes them no different. So light-skinned people are also classified as black people. A black woman can make babies with a Chinese man, the baby becomes black. They can make babies with a British woman, so the baby becomes black, or sometimes classified as mysteries. One thing is that the white people cannot. They can only make babies with their own race. But black people can make babies with any kind of race, because the gene of a white person is recessive, and the gene of a black person is dominant.
Really, this is going to sound silly, but this is really, really important, cutting-edge genetics. One of the areas I'm really lucky I'm blessed to work in three distinct areas of biology: immunology, genetics, and reproduction. And on the genetics side, I get to go to conferences and hear about advances in genetics in all species. And I was just at one a couple of weeks ago down at the Cold Spring Harbor Lab in Long Island, and I learned a bit about what's being known about the genome of Neanderthals, the genetic makeup of Neanderthals. The genome sequencers, led by Svante Pabo, who works in Germany, has taken tiny little fragments of Neanderthal bones, isolated DNA, and determined the genome of the Neanderthal, and used that information to determine, using genetic methods, how long ago Neanderthals and humans were a single species, where the common ancestor was. And they've also been able to compare human genomes and ask the question of whether there's any evidence of Neanderthal genes in the human genome. And they found that there is. And the amount is quite significant, upwards of 5 to 7%. Neanderthals used to live in the Neander Valley. It's, you could have called it the Cayuga Lake Basin, but that's where they lived. And out of Africa came the modern humans, and the word the geneticists use is admixed. They admixed with the Neanderthals. And they all used to live in caves in those days like this. Came out of Africa, admixed with the Neanderthals. This was Neanderthal territory. There was another group of Neanderthal-like creatures called the Denisovans. They lived up here in Siberia, and they have their genome has been sequenced. They were distinct from the Neanderthals. And so you can find in people of European and Asian ancestry evidence of about 7%, 5 to 10% of your genome is common with that of Neanderthals. We've been separated from them for 30,000 years or so. And some of the tribes in Papua New Guinea and those islands out there, there's evidence for a different kind of genome, which is probably the Denisovan genome. And they might have 7% Neanderthal and 5% Denisovan. So they might be 12 or 15% different from us. And in fact, the Africans who came out from Africa have no evidence of any Neanderthal genes in them. No evidence of admixture. So they're the real pure humans. Homo sapiens. Really, really interesting, and it gives you a lot to think about. Right.
Yes. Now, do you believe that you're superior? Do you believe that you are more intelligent? Yeah? Do you believe that your hair, which looks like mine, is beautiful? You don't need no different kind of hair. Just love how you are, you know? God is the one who made us this way, and God is the most superior genius. You know, He is genius itself. He is the embodiment. And He gave you this look for a purpose, you know? There's a reason why the Egyptian civilization thrived for so long. There's a reason why they built the pyramids, because the pyramids are built with very high architectural technology. A technology that can still not build those pyramids up to date. Or rather, it would be difficult. And how long was it that the pyramids were made? So much long ago, you know? So Africa is beautiful. Africa, we are blessed with the intelligence. Africa, we are just so much blessed. Look at the fastest man in the world. Who is he? Usain Bolt. Look how strong he is. Look how faster he goes. Look at those people who run fast in this world. The long distance runners. They are Kenyans. And these Kenyans are always, they run fast and they come from the Kenyan highlands. I'm always looking back at them and I'm saying, wow. I'm proud to be one of these people, you know. They run, and they don't get tired, you know. We have the world holding champion, Eliud Kipchoge, right? Who says man has no limit. The limit is yourself. That one I add. It's a black person. The best musicians we've had are black people, right? One of the inventions that really support modern technology, black people have been involved, you know. The person who invented internet was an African. The person who came up with the development of fiber optics, a technology that is used to transfer internet packet data at very high speed, actually the speed of light, was an African from Ghana. The late, I've forgotten his name, but he was a genius. Africans have contributed, or rather blacks have contributed more in this world, but we are really not given credit for what we've done. It is through such results, it is through such reports, it is through such presentations, experiments, I guess also, that we are able to be reminded, not told, but reminded. Somewhere in between, we forgot who we are because of civilization, because of colonization, and because of slavery. Yes. But remember your worth. Remember you are so much important as a black person. Remember you are a genius. Remember you are strong. Remember that diseases do not take you easily. When the whole world was suffering bubonic plague, Africa did not suffer bubonic plague. That plague was very dangerous. But Africans, it never touched us. When those diseases, Africa was the last continent to be affected by the COVID virus. Yes. And we didn't perish as much as those other continents, particularly the white continent. What does that tell you about you as an African? It tells you a lot, right? Look at this sunlight. I'm enjoying the sunlight. I don't fear that I'm gonna have some sunburns or what. I'm an African and I'm a proud African. And you who is watching me, my message to you is be a proud African. Just be a proud African, yes. See you in the next one, guys, and thanks for watching. You may want to support me on Patreon. I'll surely appreciate. See you in the next one.